On this week's edition of Jaguar TV. Honors Biology completed a unit on cellular energy. In this unit, we learned all about photosynthesis and aerobic cellular respiration. Students did an in-depth chemical analysis to measure carbon dioxide and oxygen levels dissolved in water to determine the rate of both processes in various light scenarios. After learning about how cells use oxygen, students focus on what cells do when no oxygen is present, anaerobic respiration. Students felt the burn when they completed multiple physical challenges to build up lactic acid in their muscles through the process of lactic acid fermentation. Then, students were challenged with the task of finding out how much carbon dioxide was produced by yeast during alcoholic fermentation. Have you ever been in class and wondered, when will I ever use this? Well, here's a real life science application. After learning about alcoholic fermentation, class Mimi, Miss Betty Wimmer, made the class sourdough bread starter. The students were able to see how the yeast produced carbon dioxide, which would cause the dough to rise before baking. The next day, Mimi surprised the class with 5 loaves of warm sourdough bread through their benchmark assessment. Thanks to alcoholic respiration, you get to enjoy soft, fluffy bread.
North Pike CTE inducted new members into the North Pike chapter of National Technical Honor Society. NTHS is an educational nonprofit that exists to honor, recognize, and empower students in career and technical education.
Hey Jaguars, welcome into Jag Talk. I'm your host Ty Goldman, and I'm here with our head football coach, Coach Mott. Coach, how's your day going?
It's going good. How's yours, Ty?
It's going good. I appreciate you asking. So we'll get into our interview. We'll start talking last week, right? We got into a hole, and we got into a deep one, and we got into it early, and that kind of offset us a little bit. We just every time they would score, it maybe was it was kind of off our early miscues. How can we avoid those as we get into a really crucial part of the season right now?
Well, I think if you look at football, on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, I mean, I hate to bring this up to you Cowboy fans, but one of the reasons that they lost was that they gave up too many turnovers and they weren't able to pull out the victory. Well, North Pike's in the same boat. Just 2 days before, we had 3 big turnovers that changed the ball game. We fumbled a handoff and they returned it for a touchdown. They stripped us and returned for another when we threw a pit interception that led to another touchdown. If you take those 21 points away, and then we actually gave up a punt return for a touchdown. So you take those 28 points away, and we win pretty handedly. And that's just the name of the game. You've got to find ways to limit turnovers. You got to find ways to capitalize off their turnovers, which they had none. And so we're going to have to work on a few things, and that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. So we did, though, made the game close, found a way to come back, kind of found our stride defensively and offensively. We had some points there late in the first half, and then late in the second half we had some points to get real close with them. And then, we find ourselves a stop away from getting the ball back, and maybe be able to drive down the field and win the game. But we couldn't get that stop, but that's besides what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to ask you is, what does that comeback and that performance later in the game kind of say about the resiliency of your team?
I think it says a lot, and I think that one thing that our record doesn't necessarily show is that how we've come together as a team to find ways to fight back adversity. And, we've won, we've played 6 games, and we've played 24 quarters. We've actually scored more than our opponents in 10 of those quarters. In 9 of those quarters, they scored more than us, and we tied in 5. So, I look at it like, we're doing some really good things. We're just not finding a way to put together a complete game offensively, defensively, and in the special teams world. So we've got to do a better job of going in and saying that we can't give up the lead early, or we got to hold the lead late. And so a young team, that's what you're going to hit, growing pains, and I think that we're going to be okay in the long run. We just got to find a way to grow.
I agree, because we do have the talent. I think we have a lot of talent. So speaking of talent, Xavier Nunn, quarterback for us, senior quarterback, kind of struggled a little bit early, had missed on some passes, and then I thought he played well towards the end and helped us. He had 2 big throws that led us to scoring drives to help us draw closer to Natchez, and then he had some other big throws as well. How would you evaluate his play last Friday?
I think Zay and I talked about it yesterday, and what I think that it's kind of neat if you look it up is that he's in the top high percentage, top 50% in as far as quarterbacks in the state of Mississippi, and that's pretty impressive considering he was a receiver up until fall camp. And so Zay understands that sometimes when you get thrown into a new job, it's easy to try too hard, and I think when he's made the mistakes he's made, it's not necessarily because he's limited on his athletic ability. It's just he wants so bad to win and do so well for North Pike that sometimes you try too hard. And you're an athlete, you've been there before, where you've got to keep a cool head, you've got to stay focused. And so I think he can ultimately be okay with those mistakes, but we just got to limit him and make him where he's not trying to do anything else on BZ Nunn.
So getting specific now, how would you kind of assess the play and the effort of your defense and your special teams last Friday?
Defensively, I thought, what hurt us the biggest concern I had was the big plays. They had 12 plays where they had 9 or more yards. And what that means is if you have 9 or more yards, you basically have gone in and given them extra yards after contact. You've missed a tackle. You've not gotten him pushed out of bounds. You've missed a fit. And so what I mean is that usually those big plays result in touchdowns, or they result in plays that end up being touchdowns on the next play or two. So we've got to do a better job of tackling. We've said that before. It's an easy game. You run the ball, you throw the ball, you tackle, you block. But that's just what has hurt us in tying into special teams. It's 2 weeks in a row where we've given up a punt return for a touchdown, almost at the exact same spot on the field to the exact same side, and it's just frustrating because we know we're better than that. And so we've made a few changes on the punt team for this week. Hopefully those things will come into fruition. But we just got to do better at the little things, and tackling is one of those little things.
Yes, sir. Now a little bit over the halfway mark of the year. That was our 6th game last Friday. And then we push into now further into district play. How would you kind of assess, evaluate, whatever you want to call it, the play of your team overall so far?
Well, and it's easy to say this, that we knew going into the season that we were going to have some tough opponents. Going up to 5A, scheduling some people that were tougher on purpose because we wanted to get used to certain offenses like the wing T. And, I would definitely say that everybody across the board in this community wants our record to be better. But I think what we're seeing, if you watch us, we're putting a good team together. It's a fun game to go watch on Friday nights. It may not be the best game scoreboard wise, but we're going to give you a good test. We're going to fight until the very end. And so I think that ultimately I'm not happy with everything, but I am happy with the direction we're headed. We've just got to find ways to fix some mistakes, and I think that can be done.
Gotcha. So now we move on into district play. We play the Florence Eagles this week. Team that's 4-3. Their 3 losses have been really close. They had 2 losses by 2 points, and then they had 1 loss by 1 point. So a lot of close games, and they have some experience offensively at the quarterback position with the senior quarterback. They run and that's nice because I think the wing T, they run the wing T, and I think it's kind of complex. It can be, and then defensively they've had some honestly just had some good games and bad games. It's just been kind of the mix for them this year. What can we do as a team on both sides of the ball and on the special teams to help us win Friday night?
Well, I think Florence has done what we did. In their non-conference games, they scheduled some pretty tough opponents. Went up, played a 6A team, went and played some teams that are going to be challenging. So I think this is an equal test. I think that they have a better record and a little bit more experience at the quarterback position, sure. But the one thing about the wing tee is you do limit yourself, meaning that you're going to run the ball. And if you can't run the ball that night for whatever reason, you're going to be in a tough boat. And I think we showed that against East Central earlier this year, where we found ways to stop the run. We limited their big plays, and they only got 2 touchdowns out of the game, and ultimately we were able to beat them. So I think if you look at how this game going up Friday is going to be, is defensively we've got to find a way to stop the run and force them to throw the ball, because that's not what they like to do. Offensively, I think we can move the ball on them. Everybody else has shown that you can. We've just got to find ways to get points earlier than later, so that we're not playing catch up. And special teams is just simple. We got to execute. We got to tackle. We got to block better. We got to get some touchbacks, and we can't miss extra points or field goals. And that's kind of been the past couple of weeks is where we've kind of hurt ourselves, is we're just not winning that area. And so now we're behind the 8 ball, as you could say. And so we got to do better.
Yes. Well, good luck this week.
Thank you.
Your Jaguars play Friday night at Southwest against Florence. We're now here with sophomore cross-country runner Landon Fleming. Landon, how's your day going?
Going good. How about you?
Mine's going good. Glad yours is going good as well. So we'll start off with, what is one thing that you think throughout the year that you think you've really excelled on?
Well, I've always been more of a speedy person. I've had the speed there, but kind of lacked the endurance. So over the summer, I really worked on the endurance, doing longer runs and trying to increase the endurance.
Gotcha. So, yeah, you talk about endurance and speed, and that cross country is a tough sport in that there's so many aspects to it, and it's tough to train for. What kind of goes into training for one of your races, or maybe the day before or something like that? What kind of goes into preparing for one of your big races?
Well, the day before, you really want to focus on hydrating, getting electrolytes in, nutrition, making sure you're eating right, fueling your body right. And we'll do like a 2-mile shakeout, do a couple strides, get your legs kind of shook out, get them ready for what they're about to have to go through.
So the season is about to end pretty soon. Y'all have a couple more meets. So you're a sophomore, so that means you'll only have 2 more years here at North Pike in your cross-country career, high school-wise. How do you plan to make the most of the rest of your high school career as a cross-country runner, whether that be through individual practice, team practice, or anything like that?
I'm going to work very hard. I want to make it in college for this sport. And, just train hard over the summer, try to get as good as I can get strength-wise. And I would like to grow as a team and make North Pike one of the biggest cross-country teams in the state.
Well, that's good to hear. I appreciate the interview, Landon. Jaguars, thank you again for watching Jag Talk.